Most epic deaths in history.
Today, we're going over the most epic deaths in human history. Number 1, Benkei. We're starting this video off with a story of the greatest wingman in human history.
The best who? The greatest what?
We're starting this video off with a story of the greatest wingman in human history.
Okay.
It's a dark night in 12th century Japan, and a Buddhist monk named Benkei is wandering the streets of Kyoto. With an abundance of temples dotting the city, monks are
How tall is
sight,
Benkei?
but this guy is
6'8"?
different. At 6'6", he towers.
I was so close. I was so close, man. I was so close. I should have said 6'7". I'm on Twitch right now. Link is in the description, so you should come join. Because if you don't...
everyone around him, and he's carrying a weapon. A cross between a sword and a long spear called a naginata. His face gives off the vibes of someone on a hunt more than someone seeking enlightenment. And it turns out he was out hunting that night for his final victim. See, Benkei was actually a Sohei, a warrior monk trained and battle-hardened in combat. Through his encounters with samurai, he's decided that they were an arrogant class, unworthy of their status in society. The world would be a better place with less of them around, and this led him on a bloody quest to duel and defeat 1,000 samurai, collecting their blades.
1,000? Is he playing an RPG? Is he an Elden Ring? Is he an Elden Ring protagonist? What do you mean 1,000?
As trophies after each victory. At this point, he had collected 999 swords.
Okay, no, I'm calling cap. There's no way he actually collected 999. There is no way not one of them dudes snaked him, got him off guard. I don't believe it. I'm calling the meanest cap.
And was out that night looking for his final duel. While walking near Goto Tenjin Shrine, Benkei hears the sound of a flute, and when looking to see who was playing it,
what is
he
it,
finds
Zelda?
a small, thin samurai.
We're on a bridge, bro. I've seen this in a Dragon Ball game, Dragon Ball Attack of the Saiyans.
Around the man's waist is a beautiful gilded katana, the perfect piece to finalize Benkei's sword collection.
That sucks.
He immediately challenges this samurai to a duel. The small man puts away his flute, and surprisingly, he agrees to fight. The two men walk together to Gojo Bridge and draw their weapons.
Quite literally sounds like
confidence, Benkei rushes
Mortal
in,
Kombat?
but despite towering over the samurai, Benkei is swiftly defeated. Instead of taking his life, the samurai just turns and walks away.
Like this is not folklore. This is not a TV show. What do you mean you defeated him but didn't take his life? What are we talking about?
Benkei is shocked and left in disbelief. In the following days, these unfamiliar feelings turn to anger and frustration. How could he lose to this tiny samurai?
Because he's not locked in.
Much larger men in the past.
He's not locked in.
He decides to stalk the grounds of Kiyomizu-dera Temple, waiting for the samurai to appear so he could take his revenge. Eventually, the samurai does show up, and Benkei immediately challenges him to another duel, a fight that Benkei loses again. Humiliating.
I don't understand how you lose a fight when you're like using bladed weapons and it doesn't end with death. Like this guy is challenging your life. Why would you not want to end his life? Like I don't understand that. But I'm not a samurai. Maybe that's why I'm not a samurai.
Feet and tells this samurai that he'll abandon his life as a monk.
There is a reference of this in the One Piece Wano arc. That'd be fire if it was.
And instead follow him as one of his retainers. The samurai, who abandon his life as a monk, and instead follow him as one of his retainers.
What?
The samurai, who turns out to be Minamoto no Yoshitsune of the legendary Minamoto clan, agrees. Benkei joins him on his adventures, and the two become inseparable. They go on to join Yoshitsune's half-brothers and fight in the Genpei War against the powerful Taira, a clan that had killed Yoshitsune's father when he was just a baby. After 5 years of fighting, the Minamoto clan emerges victorious, and one of Yoshitsune's half-brothers, Yoritomo, becomes shogun. The end of the Genpei War had an unintended consequence. Without a common enemy, jealousy and suspicion soon turn the brothers against each other, and Yoshitsune and Benkei find themselves on the run, being pursued by Yoritomo and his men. They eventually find protection under another clan called the Fujiwara, and the pair spend a few years in relative peace in their domain. This ultimately did not last, as with a lot of pressure and probably a lot of bribes, Yoritomo finally convinces the Fujiwara to turn on his brother. Fujiwara no Hidehira,
how much do you get paid? How much would y'all have to get paid to kill y'all siblings? How much would y'all? Because I'm just saying, like, if that's your sibling, like, you have to get paid a decent amount, bro. Like, I need life-changing money, bro. $5. Fair.
Raised them, and on June 15th, 1189, at the Battle of Koromogawa, Yoshitsune and Benkei find themselves trapped and outnumbered 5-1, with 500 of Fujiwara's men surrounding their castle position. The forces
Oh.
clash, and
Oh.
Yoshitsune's men put up a heroic effort.
Oh.
Benkei in particular is a demon on the battlefield, crushing enemies who are on average more than a foot shorter than him. But despite their best efforts, Yoshitsune's men quickly begin to fall.
Yeah, I mean,
With
it's
just a
5 to
handful of
1.
retainers remaining, Yoshitsune realizes the battle is already lost. He turns to Benkei and tells him he plans to commit seppuku within the castle. He'll need time to prepare, and Benkei understands the assignment.
Time to prepare?
He walks to the
What?
bridge that serves as the only entrance to the castle and stands alone against Fujiwara's army. Fujiwara signals a charge, and wave after wave of his men charge Benkei.
There's no way they cannot take this man down. He's 6'7", bro. He's 6'6".
cut-
Like, if y'all don't just throw a sword at his legs or something.
Them down one after another. No
I know what Saboku is. I think that's how it's pronounced. I know what it is, but I'm like, what do you mean you have to set up for it? Like, you have your sword right there. Why don't you just, you know what I'm
man
saying?
can make it past him. In some stories, he's said to have single-handedly slain 300 soldiers on that
Single-handedly slain 300 soldiers. I guarantee you he didn't sling that thing 300 times. Cap!
bridge. Benkei stands
Seppuku,
stoically behind a
seppuku,
pile of
seppuku.
deceased Fujiwara warriors, beckoning more men to cross. And despite orders to do so, none of the Fujiwara's men answer his call. They all know that stepping on the bridge was a death sentence. Fujiwara, realizing his
This
men are
gotta
now
be
too
folklore.
afraid to attack Benkei head-on, calls in his archers. They'll take him out from a distance instead. The archers let loose a barrage of arrows that
Let me guess. He dodged every single one and slashed the ones that he couldn't dodge. And then he started creeping up on the archers and took them all out in one single strike.
find their mark in Benkei's chest, but nothing happens. Benkei doesn't flinch. They let loose
What?
another volley of arrows, but still nothing changes. Benkei's body is now a pincushion of arrows, but is still standing
Did
defiantly
he
in their
die?
way.
Did he die
Time
standing up?
passes, and both sides stare at each other across the bridge.
He died standing
Nobody
up.
dares to make the first move. Finally, Fujiwara orders some of his men onto the bridge, and they reluctantly do as they're told. As they slowly
That's
approach
kinda
Benkei,
raw.
he makes no motion to ready himself. They creep closer,
That is
and when they
kinda raw.
finally reach the massive monk, they discover that while he was still standing, he was already dead.
If that was real, that's so cold. That is so cold if that was
Benkei,
real.
knowing he needed to buy as much time for his master as possible, had positioned himself to be supported by his spear even if he was no longer alive. In his last stand, he showed no pain or emotion while being hit with countless
W
arrows,
or cap.
all to give the illusion that he was
W
ready to
W
fight
or
anyone
farm.
who dared to cross. Because of his final actions, Yoshitsune had enough time to commit the seppuku ritual properly,
It's a ritual?
maintaining his honor. What a
Wait, what? I didn't know it was a whole ritual. I thought it literally just translated the suicide. So now I want to know what this ritual is about.
wingman! Number 2, Yi Sun Shin. The end of the 16th century in Korea was a strange mix of insane political corruption and relative peace for its people. Korea was a loyal tribute state to China, and the Ming dynasty pretty much left them alone. To the east, the Japanese were busy killing each other in the Sengoku Jidai, so they weren't a problem either.
Okay.
Aside from those pesky Jurchens who were constantly invading from the north, the rest of Korea was pretty boring and uneventful with no major threats. The boring, no wars way of life led to many men choosing to pursue careers as scholars and
And it
government
led to-
officials,
it led to
as
North
it was now
Korea.
the best way to gain power and influence. This led to a bloated and corrupt political class and an extremely weak military led by generals who had never seen real combat. This combination of governmental corruption
Why
and
is
a weak
everyone
military
abusing
would
each
end up
other?
causing all kinds of problems in 1590 when Hideyoshi Toyotomi fulfilled the dreams of his former lord Oda Nobunaga and reunified Japan, bringing an end to the Sengoku Jidai. The
Okay.
Japanese, for the first time in over 100 years, were not at war with each other. And if they weren't busy fighting each other, who are they going to fight now?
Animals.
Oh.
Wait, who did they
fight
point
now?
to? China, 1600s.
Oh. Hey, before
Okay.
you brutally invade Korea and stuff, can I ask you, how many spam emails or texts do you get a day?
I am the Mongolian prince with 10 million to send you. There's suspicious activity in your bank account. Cure your foot fungus today. I can't remember the last time I've checked my spam email. How bad is spam now?
I
Like, is
think you need
spam
to check
worse
out
or has it
Incogni.
gotten better?
See, anytime you submit your personal info online to sign up for a new service,
W ad. What type of ad is this? Incognine, 60% off this. Code serious history.
code Serious History with the link in the description below and get 60% off an annual plan. What an awesome deal. Okay, you can get back to your invasion now. Toyotomi begins sending messengers to Korea, saying that he was planning to conquer China and that he expects the Koreans to help him or else.
Or else what?
Now, remember, Korea was basically like the Puerto Rico of China in this era, so they couldn't really help Japan conquer it. Not like
Yeah.
they wanted to anyway. They thought the Japanese were primitive barbarians. Plus, those idiots don't even know how to sail anyway, right? Ha 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 ha. Oh. In
Barbarians is crazy, I'm
1592,
not gonna lie.
hundreds of Japanese ships are spotted.
I am curious from what I think I've been told and what I consumed. I don't think Koreans, Japanese, and China, I don't really think they have a good relationship with each other. I really want to know more about the genocides that happened just out of history curiosity.
Spotted off the coast of Busan. This is no trading expedition.
red velvet
This is an
cookies? That's
invasion.
fire.
Seeing the massive Japanese fleet, two of Korea's top admirals freak out and sink their own ships so they won't have to fight the Japanese.
That is S tier aura. That is S tier aura. I'm not gonna lie, that was fire. I mean for Japanese. Cause what do you mean they sunk themselves so they didn't have to fight? That's fire. That's so fire.
And just like that, half of Korea's naval fleet is gone. The Japanese soldiers land in Busan unopposed and immediately
dang,
begin
on
conquering
Busan.
forts and cities on their march
I know
to
the
Seoul.
train to Busan.
The Korean military
train
is
to
no
Busan.
match for Toyotomi's men, who are all veterans of a 100-year war. Korean casualties are huge.
How are
The
they
Japanese
veterans of 100-year wars? They didn't live no 100 years. They didn't live 100 years long. Man, they capped me.
are ruthless and leave few survivors. Within 3 weeks, they've marched to and conquered Seoul. A few weeks later, they take Pyongyang and are at China's doorstep. The
Goodness.
fall of Korea seems inevitable. But when all hope seemed lost, a man determined to defend his homeland and drive out these
He's
barbarian
lost.
invaders rose to the occasion.
He's lost.
A man who quite possibly was the greatest admiral to ever live.
Ever?
His name was Yi Sun Shin.
Better than
Yi
Luffy's,
Sun Shin's story
dad?
is pretty
Grandpa?
interesting because unlike most heroes, he wasn't necessarily liked by the elites at the time. In fact, they kind of hated him, but for all the wrong reasons. Basically, early in his military career, he was so good at inspiring his men and leading
Yeah.
them to victory that he
Erwin?
made everyone around him look bad by comparison. Remember, corruption was a big problem during this
W.
time.
Garp.
So out of jealousy, a general falsely accuses Yi of deserting the army in battle, and the king believes it. He strips Yi of his rank, has him
Wow.
thrown in prison and tortured. This experience
Oh, they had Yi tooted up
is it.
and
He
wood
strips
to
Yi of
his
his rank,
back.
has him
Look at him, bro. He's on
Thrown in
all
prison and-
fours. They put him in prison, put an anvil on his head and smacked him with wood on his back. Boom.
This experience would probably make most men quit the military altogether, but Yi was eventually released, and he managed to
name's Yi?
climb his way back through the ranks to commanding a small fleet of ships by the start of the Japanese invasion.
Come on, Yi.
Now, despite the fact the Koreans were absolute trash at fighting at the start of this war, they did have one huge advantage over the Japanese. They'd
Strategy?
been dealing with Woko pirates along the coast for years, and because of this, they had developed ships called Panay. On the other hand, was a floating
that?
fortress
Yeah,
armed
look
with
at that.
cannons and was built in a way that made boardings
Woo-wee!
impossible. These ships were a
Hey.
huge reason why Admiral Yi was able to have so much of
Hey, Yi brought cannons into play. It was raps ever since. But who had the epic death? Like, is Yi about to die here? Like, am I about to have to say R.I.P. Yi? Man, R.I.P. Yi, man.
his success and are basically the only advantage the Koreans have. And they already sank over half of them themselves. Anyways, Admiral Yi was not a coward like the other two admirals, and instead of sinking his ships, he rushed his fleet of 34 ships headfirst towards the Japanese and began
34?
attacking them along the coast. His capabilities as a naval commander are obvious right from the start. In just a few weeks, using tactics to bait the Japanese to sail into vulnerable positions, he single-handedly sinks over 200 Japanese ships with no losses of his own. In battle after battle, he is vastly outnumbered, yet sails away victorious every single time.
And this is why the game Battleship was made. Because someone like him was around. Like the game Battleship was made because he changed the way fighting was the sea fights were ever established. Sea war. He was the creator of Battleship. He's what influenced Battleship. He wasn't the creator, but he influenced it 100%. Yeah, shout out to him, bro. Absolute mad genius.
Yi is the sparkling piece of glitter embedded in the turd that is the Korean military. And by the end of the year, he had sunk 350 Japanese ships. Yi's efforts, along with the help of Chinese reinforcements, allowed the Koreans to drive the Japanese soldiers all the way back to Busan. And by the end of the year, the war entered somewhat of a stalemate, with the Chinese and Japanese trying to negotiate a peace deal. So things are going pretty good for Yi. But remember the two admirals who sunk their own ships at the beginning of the war?
Yeah.
Well, one of them, named Won Gyeon, is
At the very beginning, the ones who ran away?
insanely jealous of Yi's success.
Or no. At the beginning of the war on the Korean side. Okay, now I
So
remember.
jealous, he starts talking shit about Yi to the
No
king
way.
every day. And when peace talks with China fail and Toyotomi begins a second invasion of Korea in 1597, Gyeon and other government officials frame Admiral Yi as a traitor. And the king agrees. For the second time in his career, Yi is stripped of his rank and sent back to prison where he is brutally tortured again.
Now he's
set to be
again.
executed, but the king has a change of heart, and he instead sends Yi back to fight as a common soldier. A humiliation worse than death. With Yi out of the picture, Won Gyeon is...
Man, you might want to switch sides, Yi. I'm not gonna lie. It doesn't sound like your side riding for you, bro. I mean, I'm just saying, like, at this point in time, it might be time for you to switch sides. Cause your people are not locked in. Your people are not riding for you at all, bro.
Put in charge of the Korean fleet. And as you may have guessed by now, he was pretty terrible at his job. He drank heavily, made poor decisions, and disrespected his men. Many of Yi's commanders refused to fight under such a downgrade. And what made things even worse for Gyeon was that during the stalemate, the Japanese who had watched Admiral Yi wreck their over and over
they took
again
notes.
had actually learned how to fight at sea.
Yep.
Their new ships now had cannons.
Yep.
They began to use the same strategies Admiral Yi had used against them. This all comes to a head in the Battle of Chilcheoliang, Gyeon's first attempt to attack the Japanese fleet.
They choked it.
200 ships and the best of Admiral Yi's men, Gyeon sails out to confront the Japanese, and he immediately falls into a trap. A trap they had learned from fighting against Yi. The entire Korean Navy is decimated, and Gyeon is last seen being chopped to bits by Japanese soldiers while trying to run away. The king, realizing he may have messed up, reinstates Yi Sun-shin as fleet admiral.
Bro, if I'm Yi, I'm so done with the king. Make up your mind, bro. Do you want to ride with me or not? Like, I'm so... Yo. They need to do something about that king. That king must have lost his job. Like, he had to. Because bruh.
He takes command of the pathetic remains of the once undefeated Korean Navy. He's left with just 13 ships and a few hundred demoralized men. In the following battle, outnumbered 25-1, using superior strategy, Yi manages to sink 31 of the 333 Japanese ships.
25-1 is impossible to come back from. It's just not real, bro. You were sentenced into a death trap. That's so whack, bro. That was a whack king decision.
Again, without losing a single ship of his own. This victory gives Yi time to rebuild his navy, but not gonna lie, things still look pretty grim for the Koreans.
He's not
winning. But the next year, Hideyoshi Toyotomi becomes ill and dies. His last official order being to withdraw the Japanese army from Korea back to Japan. Yi sees this as the time to...
Oh, that's the other people's army leader. I shouldn't say thank anything to no one. I'm not on anyone's side. I'm just watching a story.
Finally drive the Japanese out of Korea for good and mounts a final offensive against the retreating Japanese forces. At the decisive Battle of Noryang, Yi takes his position at the top of his flagship with his son and nephew and begins beating a war drum to push his allied Korean and Chinese fleet forward. Admiral Yi's ship leads the charge, and he personally takes out 10 Japanese ships. The Japanese are in full retreat, and Yi beats his drum with intensity. Victory is within his grasp. After 7 long years, Korea will finally be free of these invaders.
But something happened.
But suddenly, he's hit in his armpit by a Japanese musket ball. He realizes the wound is fatal, and he turns to his son and nephew and says, "The war is at its height. Wear my armor and beat my war drums. Do not announce my death." His son and nephew quickly carry his body below deck, and his nephew, dressed in Yi's armor, quickly returns to the admiral's position and resumes beating the drum. Yi's men continue to fight, and the Koreans drive the Japanese out of Korea for good. Undefeated in battle, Yi dies below deck, listening to the sound of his drum, knowing that his homeland was finally free.
That's so raw.
Number 3, Ben El Salman.
We have an actual photo of Ben Salman.
So we generally cover stories from more ancient times on this channel, but this story from World War II undeniably belongs on this list.
Okay.
This is the last stand
You
of
have
a
video proof?
dentist turned field medic who took out 98 Japanese soldiers before falling to his own wounds.
Dentist turned field medic? What type of story?
Ben L. Salomon was drafted into the United States Army in 1940, just 3 years after he graduated from the USC Dental School. Salomon proved to be a model soldier and showed himself
a dentist getting drafted? Bro. What? Let that man work on teeth. What's he getting drafted for?
be very skilled with both rifle and pistol. He was quickly promoted, first to lieutenant and then to captain in 1944, serving as a regimental dental officer of the 105th Infantry
Apparently
Regiment.
he's locked in though.
In June of 1944, Solomon and the 105th were deployed into active combat in Saipan. The fighting in the Pacific was infamously bloody. Casualties on the island were extremely high, and with so many soldiers having much more pressing issues than a root canal, Salomon volunteered to replace the 2nd Battalion's field surgeon who had been wounded. By July, both the Americans and the Japanese had suffered heavy casualties, and the remaining Japanese troops on the island came to the realization that there was no path to victory. They decided on a final Banzai charge, a mission with the sole goal of killing as many American soldiers as possible with
Why there's no sign of victory? Why didn't they just retreat? Is retreat not an option? See, that's why I couldn't do war, because I'm trying to live. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm fighting to live, not anything else.
no plan of returning. Early in the morning of July 7th, 1944, the remaining 4,000 Japanese soldiers began their final attack. Salomon's field tent was positioned just 50 yards behind the front foxholes, and within minutes, his tent quickly filled with over 30 injured troops. He did his best to tend to the wounded, but the Japanese soon broke through the front lines. He looked out of his tent and spotted a Japanese soldier bayoneting a wounded American who was lying outside of the tent.
Oh, he about to blow a fuse.
Salomon picked up the rifle of one of his patients and fired at the Japanese soldier, killing him. Suddenly, 2 more Japanese soldiers popped into Salomon's tent, and he fired on them, taking them out as well. Like zombies, 4 more enemy soldiers then crawled into the tent from the sides, and Salomon took 2 out.
How did you know 4 more crawled in from the sides? Who's telling the story? Where did you get this this very specific information from?
This rifle and another with his bayonet. He hit the 4th soldier in the stomach with the butt of his gun.
How? Don't they have guns? Why didn't they shoot him when they were running up on him? Why didn't they shoot him?
And a wounded soldier he had been treating finished him off. Realizing the situation was only getting worse, Salomon instructed his medics to evacuate all of the wounded men. He would stay behind to give them cover so they could retreat. Salomon grabbed a rifle and joined the front lines. When he saw 4 men manning a machine gun fall to enemy fire, he rushed to the gun and manned it himself, firing bursts into the charging Japanese soldiers. He continued to fight.
How did they know he had a body count of 89? Like, who counted it? How do they know which bodies are his? Like, these are like real life questions. Like, I'm just saying.
That position until he was eventually overrun by enemy soldiers. Days later, when the Americans
how do they know he has 89 to his name if no one was there?
Returned to the battlefield, Salomon's body was found slumped over the machine gun with 98 dead Japanese soldiers piled in front of him.
Okay, they were in front of him.
His body was ravaged with 76 bullet holes and many bayonet wounds, 24 of which he may have suffered before actually dying. The blood trail on the ground showed that Salomon had repositioned the machine gun multiple times while mortally wounded. Despite saving many lives that day, Salomon was denied the Medal of Honor due to a rule in the Geneva Convention that no medical officer can bear arms against an enemy. Despite
Come on now.
multiple recommendations from generals throughout the years, he remained a footnote in history until 2002, when Salomon was finally posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor from President George W. Bush. 58 years later.
Bro, does his family even care about the Medal of Honor at that point? 58 years later? Come on, man. That was how they held the mess out of him. Amazing video though, serious history.